Hi everyone, Module 10, Part 2. We started off in Module 1 with a while loop and how to use the stepper, which is right next to the ladybug. Here's your while loop. And how to hand trace a program. In this video, I'm going to do this exact same code with a for loop and a do while loop. Okay. So this is not going to be a while loop, it's going to be a for loop. It is also a pre-test loop structure. That means I test it before I go into the loop. If it's true, I go into the loop. If it's not true, I don't. We're going to call this for loop. Must be capitalized. It's a class in Java. Public, static. Methods are, start with a small letter. Main is our method that we have to use to get into Java code. Every Java code must have a main method to start. We always put it at the top, or not Python. Okay, for loop. Again, I can use the max if I want to. We're going to print the numbers from 1 to 10. That's a constant. Now I can also do an integer number. Started at 1. Here's my for loop. Okay, for number equals 1 to number is less than or equal to 10. Add 1 to number. Okay, I'm going to do it this way, and then I'll explain it. System.out.println number, and then outside this for loop, what did I print before in the while loop? I printed end program because I want to do the exact same program that I'm doing there, end program, to show you that there's definitely different ways to do. Oops. File, let's check it out. File, save as, and we'll talk about it. I want to compile it. Oh, public static, I forgot my void up there. That happens. Okay, compiles, let's run it. It should print the numbers from 1 to 10, and then end program, which is what we did in the while loop. And it does 1 to 10. Okay. Now let's talk about this for loop. It's a pre-test loop. It means I have to test this before I go into my loop. And all that my loop here is actually one sentence. So guess what? I don't need these curly braces. Remember, it's a structure. So let's just make sure, right? It prints the same thing if I don't have curly braces, 1 to 10. Okay. When you only have one thing inside your structure, just like an if statement, you don't need curly braces. But it is a good idea, because then maybe I want to add something later. So you don't need them if you have one statement under your structure. Okay? So this works. It's a pre-test loop. I'm going to do the loop if this is true. But look at, this is what I want to tell you. In all loops, in every programming language in the world, there's 3 things that you have to do in a loop for it to work correctly. You have to initialize your loop control variable, you have to compare your loop control variable, and then you have to alter it. And that happens on the for loop right here in all 3 statements. So this is really a statement. I consider my loop control variable the thing that's controlling the loop, right, which is the variable number. It starts at 1, and then I compare it. Is it less than or equal to 10? If it is, keep going. And then when I'm done, this is a statement because they're separated by semicolons. After I'm done, then I add 1 to number. Now that's a short way. Number plus plus is the same thing as saying number equals number plus 1. That is Java's short way of saying that, which we probably already saw. Okay. So again, this is a for loop. Another thing that you want to learn about the for loop, again, this runs, it prints the numbers from 1 to 10. You can hand trace it. Here's an interesting fact. that we need to make sure of too. I don't need to declare this here. I could actually declare it inside the for loop. And this happens a lot. You'll see this a lot, especially when we get to arrays and start studying arrays later on in CTP 150. So if I run that, runs the exact same code, but I can declare it inside here. This is what you have to remember. This is a structure. So if I go outside this structure and say, okay, print number, let's compile this. It's going to give me an error. And it's going to say can't find symbol, can't find symbol. It's trying to find number. See how it's pointing that? Usually when you can't find symbol, it's a spelling error or something's wrong. Well, in this case, it's not a spelling error. It's saying I don't see number because you declared it inside this structure. So once we're outside that structure, that variable is gone in RAM. So thus you're going to get this error. So this is my thing. I always say this. Always declare all your variables first. Input. Right? And we could even start that out at 0 there. And then you can't declare it twice in your program. Remember, if I try to do this, it's going to give me an error. It's going to say, wait, you already defined that, right? So that gives me an error. So in this case, I always say in your input section, definitely declare all your variables, initialize them to zeros or spaces, depending on the data type, and then make assignments and do your process and output. Okay, so that's your for loop. Okay, that's a pretest loop. The last loop that I'm going to talk about is a do while loop. Do while loop is a post test loop. Okay. And this is going to do the same thing, print the numbers from 1 to 10. Let's see how you do that. Do while. Open this class, close this class, open the main header, public, static, void, main, string of args, arguments, open that up, close it, there's my template. File, save as, must be called do while. Okay, good start. There's my template. Okay, so to do a do while loop, same thing. Final, int max equals 10. Int number, start off at 1. Now here's how you do a do while loop. You start off with do. Open your structure, close your structure. But down here is going to be your while statement. While number is less than or equal to max, semicolon. So your do while structure is like this. This is how the do while looks. I'm going to go in here, and then because number is already started at 1, I'm going to print it. So it's going to print 1, and then I have to add 1 to it. Number plus plus, remember, or I could say number equals number plus 1, semicolon. I can also write that like number plus plus, like that. Same thing. Usually put it right next to it, right? That's the same thing as saying number equals number plus 1, add 1 to it. And, sorry, and then that should do it outside my while loop. And program. See if that compiles. And run. Make sure it prints 1 to 10 inclusive. And there you have it. And that's your post-test loop. Why do I call it a post-test loop? Because a do while loop says you must run through your code at least 1 time. So it will do this and this no matter what, and then it checks your condition. It says, do I keep going? Then I go back. So this structure right here keeps running and running until this is satisfied. But it still has three things: a loop control variable that's initialized, then it does a comparison, and then it does an alter or changes it inside the loop. Okay, so those are your three loops, module 10. Again, if you struggle, send me an email with the exact problem and step that you're on, and I can always post more videos, because I do know that the students have struggled with the challenges in this module a little bit more than the coding. Okay? Let me know if you have any questions in Canvas email.